Do you believe that the very tires we throw away could one day save a whole nation? How Ibrahim Traore shocked the world. It was the rainy season in Burkina Faso. The sky hung low, heavy with grey clouds. The earth was soaked soft as porridge. The roads, my friend, the roads had turned into rivers of mud. Ambulances, stuck halfway to the hospital. Children, wading barefoot through brown water just to reach school. Motorbikes, sliding, falling their engines, coughing like tired old men. And in the middle of all this stood a man. Not in a fine suit, not behind a golden desk. No. This man stood with his boots deep in the mud, rain dripping from his cap. His name, Ibrahim Traore. He was not speaking of change. He was touching it. Not making promises, but rolling up his sleeves ready to fight the stubborn earth itself. That evening, the sun broke through the clouds for a brief moment, and the light touched the old rubber tires piled by the roadside. Black, useless, forgotten, but Traore's eyes, they saw something else. Not waste, but a path. Not trash, but a future. I tell you, my friend, in that single moment, an idea was born. An idea that would travel further than the road itself. And that road was not built yet. But in his heart it had. That day, Traore walked. Not on the clean streets of the capital, but through a village road that swallowed cars whole. His steps were steady, his eyes searching. Beside him was Musa, a childhood friend turned bodyguard, still carrying the same mischievous smile from years ago. But today, there was no smile, only silence. They passed a pile of tires, black, dusty, smelling of heat and old journeys. Traore stopped. He looked at them for a long moment, and without telling his entourage, without even looking at Musa, he whispered to himself, "Why must this be called trash when it could carry a nation?" Later that night he received a letter. No stamp, no sender's name, just his name written in hurried strokes. Inside a single line, "The road you dream of is not the road they will let you build." Now, tell me, my friend, who sent that letter? And who are they? The sun was still hiding when Traore rose that morning. He did not call the ministers. He did not summon the engineers. No, he called only 3 men he trusted with his life, and Musa was one of them. They drove out of the city in an old military truck, rattling over broken ground, passing villages where people stared as if watching something they had never seen before. No convoy, no flags, no speeches. At the edge of a field they stopped before them. A mountain of old tires taller than a man. Black rings, smelling of rubber and forgotten roads. Traore stepped down, boots sinking into the soil. He walked to the pile, touched one tire, and smiled just enough for Musa to notice. Then he spoke, his voice low but sharp. "This will be our road, and it will outlive those who say it cannot be done." The work began in silence. Tires were laid down in neat lines like soldiers ready for battle. A special cement, thick gray, unyielding, poured over them, swallowing the black, turning it into a smooth, unbroken path. By the second week, people began to whisper. A trader from the next town told of a strange new road being built, without machines, without foreign contractors. Some laughed. "It will melt in the sun," others warned. "They will shut it down before it opens." But one evening, as the sun bled gold and red across the horizon, Traore stood at the first finished stretch. He stamped his foot on it, solid, strong, like the will of a people who refused to bow. That night, another message arrived at his desk. This time, it was not a letter. It was a photograph of the new road taken from above. And on the back, only one sentence. "Every road leads somewhere, but some lead to trouble. Tell me, my friend, who is watching from the sky and what trouble waits at the end of this road?" One afternoon, Traore walked the length of the new road. His steps were firm. Beside him, young workers sang as they laid the last stretch, their voices mixing with the rhythm of shovels hitting gravel. The air smelled of wet cement and victory. He stopped to speak with a woman carrying vegetables on her head. Her name was Adiza. She said, "Before this road, my yams would rot before reaching the market. Now I can feed my children and still have enough to sell." Traore smiled, but in his eyes there was a shadow. Because behind them in the distance a black car had been parked for hours, engine off, windows tinted, watching. That night, Musa brought him news. One of the cement shipments had gone missing. Another pile of tires had been burned in the night. This was no accident, it was a warning. Still, the work continued. More young men joined. Women brought food to the workers. Even the old men with hands twisted by time came to help place the last stones. When the road finally reached the next town, there was celebration. Drums, dancing, laughter so loud it chased the night away. But as the music faded, Musa handed Traore a small, folded note. No name, no greeting, just 3 words. "We are inside. Tell me, my friend, who has entered, and how deep inside have they gone?" The road was finished, but Traore's eyes were already looking beyond. Because he knew what good is a road if it leads to empty fields. What good is a market if the farmer's land is dry? It was the season when the wind comes hot and hard from the Sahara. It blows dust into your teeth, cracks into your skin. It turns rivers into memory. One morning, Traore traveled to the north. No motorcade, just the same old military truck. The land there was thirsty, so thirsty that even the goats had stopped walking, choosing instead to lie in the shade and wait for death. In a small village, an old man named Isaka took him to the edge of a cracked riverbed. Once it had been wide enough to carry fishing boats. Now only sand remained fine yellow, burning to the touch. Isaka said, "We wait for the rain. And while we wait, our children leave." Traore did not answer. He just looked out over the empty river and clenched his fists. That night, under a sky full of hard white stars, he spoke to Musa. "We will not wait for the rain. We will bring the water ourselves." The plan was simple in words, impossible in the eyes of others. Dig channels deeper than a man is tall. Lay pipes like veins under the earth. Create an artificial river, one that would flow in every season, even when the clouds forgot to come. When the first water rushed into the dry channels, children ran barefoot along the banks, laughing like the river itself was a game. Women planted rows of maize where yesterday there had been only dust. And in one field, a boy bent down to taste the water with his hands, as if to ask, "Are you real?" But while the people celebrated, the shadows returned. A foreign aid consultant visited uninvited carrying maps no one had given him. 2 pumps were found damaged overnight. Then, one dawn, Traore woke to find a small clay pot outside his door. Inside a fish. Dead. Wrapped in a strip of paper with a single line, "Not all rivers should flow. Now I ask you, who wants the land to remain dry, and how far will they go to stop the river that does not sleep?" One evening, as the last red of the sun melted into the horizon, Traore stood on the roof of a modest building in Ouagadougou. The city was dark, except for a few scattered bulbs humming weakly. Above him, a sky full of power. The sun had given its fire all day, and now it was gone wasted into the night. Beside him, Musa asked, "What are you thinking, old friend?" Traore's reply was quiet but sharp as a blade. "If the sun can burn us, it can also feed us." The plan was bold. A city powered entirely by the sun. Every rooftop wearing a crown of panels, electric buses gliding without smoke. Schools lit bright enough for dreams to grow at midnight, and Wi-Fi free in every street and every home. The first panels went up fast. Young men scaled rooftops like lizards. Women carried toolkits with the same pride they once carried baskets of grain. Children played under the panel's shadows, calling them the wings of the sun. But light draws not only the hopeful, it draws the jealous. Foreign contractors arrived offering partnerships with smiles too wide, contracts too thick. Some ministers who had once stayed silent began questioning the project's cost, whispering fears of too much independence. And then came the blackout. One whole district plunged into darkness, panels smashed in the night. The next morning, a package arrived for Traore. Inside, a small solar cell cracked in half, and a note. Even the sun can be stolen. Tell me, my friend, who fears a city that drinks the sun? And what would they lose if the night was gone forever? By now, the map of Burkina Faso was changing. A road born from old tires, a river that never sleeps, a city drinking the sun. To the people, it was proof that they could stand without leaning on foreign hands. To others, it was a dangerous idea. In the markets, mothers told their children, "Look, this is our time." In the fields, farmers worked with new strength, knowing their harvest would reach the towns. And in the cities, young men and women wore the name Burkina Faso like a badge, proud and unafraid. But in the hidden places, the meetings had already begun. Men in suits and men in uniforms sat around tables in distant capitals. On the walls, maps of Africa with pins and circles. On the table, files with Traoré's name stamped in red. They asked questions in low voices. What if other nations follow him? What if we lose control? One morning, as the sun was just rising, a convoy of black vehicles appeared at the edge of the presidential compound. Not military, not police. Unknown. Musa, always at his side, stepped forward with his hand on his weapon. But before a shot was fired, the vehicles turned and drove away, leaving only a cloud of dust and the feeling of a warning. That same week, a letter arrived. Its seal was foreign, its words polite, but its meaning sharp. Your independence is admirable, but dangerous. Traoré read it twice, then folded it slowly. He looked at Musa and said, "They think they can scare us with paper. But paper burns, and our spirit does not." In the villages, the drums began to sound again. Not for a wedding, not for a funeral, but for unity. Each beat carried across the land like a promise. We will not go back. Yet behind that rhythm came another sound, soft, steady, the sound of footsteps approaching in the dark. So I ask you, whose steps are these? And when they reach the drum, will they try to silence it, or will they join the dance? The sun was setting over the new road, the one born from the bones of old tires. Children walked home from school with books in their arms. Women returned from the market baskets heavy with food they had grown themselves. Old men sat in the shade telling stories of the time before, when the land was dry. The nights were dark and hope was just a word. In the presidential office, Traoré stood by the window watching the horizon. It was beautiful, but beauty can be fragile. On his desk lay three things: a folder marked "Confidential", a photograph of the damaged solar panels, and a small clay pot, the same one that once carried the dead fish. Musa entered quietly. "Captain," he said, "there are rumors of a meeting in the capital tonight. Foreign envoys, local businessmen, military officers, they are speaking your name." Traoré did not turn. He simply asked, "Are they speaking it with pride or with fear?" Musa hesitated. "Both." The captain smiled faintly. Then in the distance a low rumble began. Not thunder, not trucks, the drums. From one village to another, the sound carried deep, steady, unstoppable. The heartbeat of a nation that had found its voice. But as the drums grew louder, a new sound rose beneath them, a whisper. Too faint to understand, but strong enough to chill the blood. And so, we end, not with answers, but with questions. Who whispers when the drums are loud? What message travels in the dark while the people celebrate in the light, and when the horizon comes closer, will the road lead to victory or to a place we cannot yet see? Tell me, my brother, my sister, if you were standing beside Traoré on that road, would you keep walking